Hi everyone, welcome to 7 Barrows, the home of Nicky Henderson and the training base from which so many great horses have been launched into the Cheltenham Festival. Multiple champion hurdlers, you're thinking Gold Cup winner Bobsworth, Altior, and of course the great sprinter Sacre, that's just to name but a few. Now last year was one to forget in 2024, but this year the return of the main man, Constitution Hill, set to go for another crack at the champion hurdle on day one. That will lift hopes, and the squad generally is one of a high calibre enough that this year could well be one to remember.
Very nice to see you. I'm sorry about the weather. It's better than wet. We've sat here for years. You guys come and see us, which is lovely, because I've always said if the day you don't want to come and see us means I've got nothing worth showing you or talking about. So we like seeing you. And unfortunately we got hit last week, which is tragic, but he's still in the clinic and he'll be there for another week anyway. He's stable because it's staying exactly, he is where he is. He's very happy. He honestly doesn't know, he's in no pain or anything. They've just got to get this bloody bug under control. And it's a sort of super bug that gets into them, and how they get in, I have no idea. You'll have to ask the vets. It's a bizarre, very, very rare.
Nicky, after everything he went through last season, it must be fantastic to have Constitution Hill back. How's the last few months been for you?
Yeah, everything's been good. Didn't start that well in that we had to miss the fighting fifth, but on the other hand, we had super subs out there. And so he came in at Christmas and no, he's been terrific. Yeah. I felt we rather owed it to everybody after last year, so we slotted an extra one in. Just to grab myself the odd brownie point. Funny enough, from my point of view, I said to Soph before, I hated Cheltenham the other day. That absolutely killed me, because I think we went into Kempton with half a mind that he could easily get beaten. And if he did, I felt that if we get beaten today, but we'll be all right in March. Now, probably find it the other way around. Probably we won't be all right in March, I don't know. But, I mean, he was good in Kempton, and I wasn't that fussed that day, to be honest with you, but jeepers creepers, Cheltenham was something else. That absolutely did me in, because it's a sort of, it was a no-win situation, isn't it? Because unless he does something, which he did do, kept everybody on their toes anyway by trying to destroy a hurdle, you know, he was really, really good, but that was the only result that was any good to us. So it does put the pressure on it a bit, but he was great and he enjoyed himself.
Constitution Hill, he's back and he's the first ever 3 times winner of a Labrador's Christmas hurdle.
Well, the one good thing is he can travel off any pace. That pace that Lossiemouth found difficult at Kempton, he can go that fast. He can travel at a very, very high speed.
His best performance in the Supreme, they went hell for leather, didn't they?
Yeah, and he can travel on that, yeah. That is he has got bags of speed. And so I'm not saying they can go as fast as they like, because that's just sounding contentious. I'm not, they will go hard, but I think his weapon is that he can hold that. Remember the sort of previous in the champion hurdle 2 years ago, he went to the last and did something relatively daft, but the only one thing about him, at least when he's coming, a lot of horses would have fallen the other day, and a lot of horses couldn't have done what he did in the champion hurdle, which to me, and I know when Ruby's brilliant at dissecting these things and analysing it and what he was doing, and he understands it, and he's very good. And he understands the jockey situation as well and the dilemma. In the champion hurdle, he took off so far away, and he got halfway there, and he sort of in the air saying, oh, I'm not going to get there, and lifts in the air. Now, basically you had to be an aeroplane to do that, because he genuinely did find another, but you can only do that if you're on a fresh horse. A tired horse cannot do, and a tired horse would have probably fallen the other day. But I mean, he was, sugar, and shook his head and found a leg and galloped off, because he's still a fresh horse, and that's the only reason you get away with it, but I'd rather he didn't do it again.
and Jonbon is going to win this race again. A fourth success in the race for Nicky Henderson and a third for Nico de Boinville. Jonbon wins the Betfair Teagle Creek in great style.
I think he's won 8 or 9 Grade 1s. He's an entertaining character too. I mean, they're so different. One is the most laid-back person you'll ever come across, and the other is a complete fussbot and can't stand still for 2 minutes. But I mean, the other horse would stand still for 2 days. I could tie him up to that telegraph pole and come and get him back in the morning. He'd be fine. He did nothing wrong last year except for make one mistake in the Clarence House when it was run at Cheltenham. It's the only thing he did wrong, apart from the fact that he couldn't turn up at Cheltenham. And that was a pity. I suppose that's why he's got forgotten a little bit, because he wasn't there last year. And in all fairness, the Champion Chase, as it turned out last year, wasn't exactly an epic, was it? Do you know what I mean? It went a bit flat with, he wasn't there. El Fabiolo was determined to put holes in fences, and you know, it was a bit of a flop race really. And if he'd have been there, you'd have to say he wouldn't have had to have been. It mightn't have been the hardest race he ever had, but he wasn't there. So I suppose people do. You've got to win the Champion Chase, and then you can be a champion, and he deserves to. You can't blame the Clarence House defeat as a I don't act round Cheltenham. He just made one shocking mistake, which he was very lucky to stand up that day. So you know, you can't count that against him. I think he goes round anyway. Ascot and Sandown, he loves Sandown, we know that. But he enjoyed Ascot the other day. I thought that was a really good performance. Right, we'll leave horses for a moment. We'll get the 2 4-year-olds out. Better get to know each other.
Palladium ridden all out up top, seeing off Wolf Moon. Palladium will make a winning hurdling debut.
There are 2 things about the Huntingdon race. One is the form has already turned out to be red hot. And secondly, the time was fantastic.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, well, I didn't
QED. He was 6 seconds faster than the other division. The 2nd, 3rd and 4th and 8th or something have all won since.
Grade 12 for Royal Ascot.
Royal Ascot, Melbourne Cup.
You much of a times man, Nicky, when it comes to studying the form of your horse?
Only when it's in our favour, yeah. Lulamba could jump anyway because he'd already run over hurdles, and he's very good. Palladium was always good. And in colts, it isn't the easiest thing you'd ever do, but they either do or they don't. I mean, it's nothing to do whether they are a colt or they're not a colt. He's got a fantastic temperament, and that makes it very, very easy. And he went away and did a bit of loose schooling to start with, which we nearly always do with the horses that are coming off the flat. And he enjoyed that. And no, he's been terrific all the way through. But I say he has got a great temperament. He's a very high-class horse. Beautiful looking horse too, isn't he? I mean, you take him anywhere, he'd win a prize. Lulamba went to Ascot. He doesn't behave like a baby, but you know, he's very raw still. And he was a big, scopy horse. I mean, he's more of a, you know, you could easily see that jumping a fence next year, as well as, you know, we switched to Gino, but again, we'll see. That's a long, long, long way away. It depends what's going on in the world then. But you could easily see him jumping a fence. I don't think Palladium will be jumping fences. I think he'll be winning the Melbourne Cup.
Handstands, Django Bay, they're in the air together. Handstands the far side, Django Bay to the near side. Nothing in it as they head up towards the line. Handstands and Django Bay, still nothing in this. Handstands, Django Bay, they are going to hit the line. Handstands, I think, just as won the Silly Isles from Django Bay.
Our original thought was that Django would go, he's probably a 2.5 mile horse. I think he's more likely to come down rather than go up. I mean, you go up, I'm sure he'd stay 3 miles. That is the dilemma. They take the 2.5 mile race away just the year I wanted in there. But on the other hand, would Runrysource stay at 2.5 if the 2.5 was there? Ballyburn. Prestbury was going to be Sir Gino's sort of, you know, 2 5-year-olds. Well, they're not 4-year-olds, they're 5-year-olds now. But I mean, it would be very strange to have seen that happen. Now it doesn't happen. But 2 5-year-olds in the Arkle would have been a rare one.
And Nicky, after her excellent win at Newbury, what's the plan with Joyeuse?
The idea is the more battle hurdle, probably, is where I'm thinking. It's a very valuable race. I mean, OK, she can't run in Cheltenham, in a handicap at Cheltenham, because she hasn't had enough runs. The more battle hurdle's worth 40,000 more than the county. Sorry, Cheltenham. I think a day out in Kelso.
Nicky, it was Thursday in the Stayers Hurdle. Big, strong hand, of course, for the Irish, but you've got Lucky Place, who's quite an exciting runner, and he's got some competitive form.
He was meant to go novice chasing, all schooled up and ready to go, jumped beautifully. But at the time, we had a whole string of them. And it was just trying to find races for them. And 3 of them have finished up going back over hurdles purely because there weren't the opportunities for them to go over fences. And that is the problem with the system, in that you're not, these horses, you don't finish up with any chases at the end of the day because there's nowhere to. I didn't want to bash our own heads together, and the opportunity came in right. There was nowhere to go at the time, and we popped him at the last minute. I just popped him in the Ascot Hurdle because there was nowhere to run him over fences. He's just a very, very likeable, straightforward, uncomplicated, nice horse. And he's great. He's got a great temperament, great attitude. We are taking the stamina at risk or on trial. But the form of his, when he won there, was worked out. Nigel's horse then won the 3 mile, didn't he? So, and we were giving him 6, I think, weren't we? That's pretty solid form. If you go there on trials day, over 3 miles, you are definitely going to get a hard race. Right. Why not just trust that he stays? Where else have you got to go? If he's a 2.5 mile horse, you've still got nowhere to go. So why not just say, I trust your stamina, and we'll find out on the day.
Catch him, Derry, who wins in the end rather easily. Hititi's finished in second, followed by Jericho de Repone finished in third.
No, I hoped he'd go chasing, but that fell apart on day 1 at Sandown. But it was nothing to do with the fences or him jumping. I shouldn't have run him. We couldn't saddle him. I think he needs to just grow up a little bit more. He looked a bit. They were all over the top of him at Exeter, and he never sort of. I just hoped he'd been on the bridle a little bit more than he was. Okay. It's very hard to work out the coral and the marching pipe, because what do you do? I mean, I think we've got 9 for the coral. Okay. But then it's the same 9 in the marching pipe. Right. Except East India Express probably will be the one that'll stay in the marching pipe, only because Freddie's won on him twice, and therefore it's an obvious keep them together job. And Fantastic Lady won't get into the Grand National because the handicapper decided to drop her 2, which has taken her from a slot that would have got into the ones that almost, that's where the cut will be, somewhere 145, 146. But the Kim Muir is a 0 to 145, so now she's 144. She can come into the Kim Muir. Thanks, all right. That's Iberico Lord. No, always in those days, you know, especially those years when we had the very good Supreme novice hurdle horses. The only time I've ever been confident about anything was Altior's Supreme. And it didn't matter what Willie brought over that year, you weren't going to beat him. But we always have said, you'd settle for 1, you just need 1. But if you can have 1 on the first day, then you sort of get the bit between your teeth. And you can say, okay, well, let's get on. That 1 is absolutely crucial, and didn't you half find out last year? We did, because none is horrendous.
Watch live racing now on racingtv.com.